Reinvention. In the beginning of every year, we often receive messaging about how to reinvent ourselves and change our lives. How to reinvent our looks, how to level up, how to become someone completely different. I've honestly had some mixed feelings about our collective framework for self-improvement. In striving to become our better selves, do we honestly need to just throw out everything we've learned and start from scratch? Self-help discourse these days might suggest going from the familiar or known to something completely unrecognizable. Personally, I definitely honor the human desire to achieve and strive and to improve oneself. But I also feel as though the out with the old, in with the new approach might lead us to reject some of the most authentic parts of ourselves. The things that make us, and that aren't necessarily aligned with what's trending right now. Don't get me wrong, I also tend to fall into the hype, but right now I'm working towards finding a happy medium in my life. I constantly assess and reassess my action plans, my habits, my routines, and my self-care methods to see if they're aligning with my overarching life goals. In this video, I want to share how you can work towards achieving your life goals using the power of productivity and self-care systems that also leave much room for flexibility and flow in your life. Let's dive in. Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Amira, and on this channel, we talk about mindful productivity, wellness, and small actionable steps we can take to create more balance and find meaning on our current journeys. The first thing I want to talk about is the role of technology in systematizing self-improvement. So habits are hard to break and they're hard to form. But in this digital age, we have tons of access to tools that can help us make these changes. I personally really want to develop tools for myself that could help me clarify what habits are working for me and which ones not so much. And the primary tool that I use for developing that system, you guessed it, is Notion. I have two digital systems that I've implemented for myself. One of them is my vision and goal setting system. The other one is my self-care habits and routine system. First, we're gonna touch on my vision and goal setting system. So my general approach to goal setting is that I have an overarching life vision, basically what I wanna achieve, what I want out of life. And that's really based on how I wanna feel, how I imagine my higher self. What is she like? What does she do for a living? How does she feel on a day-to-day? What activities is she involved in? How does she spend her time? And so in really tapping into this higher self, I'm able to figure out my overarching life goals. And then from there, I go into setting near-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. So a near-term goal would be what I'd like to achieve within the next 3 years or so. A mid-term goal is about 3 to 7 years. And then long-term goals are 7+ years and beyond. And then from there, like most of us, I'll zero in on my timeline and make my yearly goals. It's a lot easier to think about what your life will be like, think about what you want to achieve in a year versus over a time span of a decade. But then I'll take it a step further. So I have my yearly goals. From there, I'll actually split those goals up by quarter, right? We have 4 quarters of the year. So basically, if it's the first quarter, I have my blinders up. The second to fourth quarters don't even matter past my initial goal setting. When it's January through March, I'm just focused on how can I hit these Q1 goals. So based on my quarterly goals, I can then think about what actionable steps can I take to help me achieve these goals. I feel like I'm gonna be saying actionable steps until I'm blue in the face, but it's true, right? So from my quarterly breakdown of goals, I separate my actionable steps into monthly action plans. So in a given quarter, if this is a larger goal that requires a lot of planning and reflection, I'll then split those goals into monthly action plan. What's my really big plan for January, for February, and then for March? And then I can then split those action plans into the tiny little granular tasks like calling XYZ, making an appointment for this, budgeting for this, etc. So those smaller tasks funnel into the monthly action plans, funnel into the larger goal for the quarter. And I'm able to perfectly visualize this framework using Notion. So I have a 5-template Notion pack called the Mindful Life Goals Pack. I have videos on this channel basically going through each of the templates, but essentially my vision board planner helps me capture that overarching life vision, really capture my feelings, tapping into my higher self. For example, I have my 2024 vision board pulled up here. I prioritize balance over hustle. Although I guess some people say that you can't really achieve balance, it's more harmony, but I feel like it's sort of the same thing, right? That equilibrium of work. And I also prioritize my health and wellness over everything. I've mentioned it a few times on here, not many, but I have an autoimmune disease. So that manifests in chronic inflammation, chronic fatigue. If left to progress, it can affect my kidneys, whole body system, etc. So also being young and relatively healthy, I've really prioritized really trying to implement healthy lifestyle habits in order to aid in combating that disease process. I also have a lot of feelings on here. Peace, flow. A lot of the pictures I have on here are very movement inspired. I'm realizing I've had those times in my life where just in the flow, in the zone, those are the scenes from my life that have really inspired me. And that's what I'm calling in for this new year and beyond. So that's an example of that higher vision for your life based on feelings and what you want to achieve, what you're tapping into. And so I used my vision board planner to help me take that from here and lay it out in front of me. And so for my yearly planning and goal setting template, I have all my goals laid out at a glance, and then I have them divvied up into quarters. So I have goals by status, whether it's been started, it's been put on hold, it's been pushed to next year, it's no longer aligned with my vision for the year, or in general. I have the context, whether it's a personal, professional goal, business goal, or a goal with a partner. And then also for my task management, I have a few more properties. I have priority levels, whether it's high priority, low priority, or might do someday, which is like, when I get to it essentially. And then I also have the demand, which I think is important for me, again, as someone who wants to do my best to mitigate that stress. I can note whether something is high energy, will take a lot from me, or is low energy. And typically I'm able to do those low energy tasks fairly quickly and easily. Also important for me, I have the estimated duration. So I like to input how long I think this task might take me. So if I see a task would take me like 20 minutes and I'm procrastinating, I can be like, look, Amira, you have like an hour in your schedule. You can do like at least 3 of these tasks. And then following my yearly planning page, I have a weekly planning page, which allows me to put little reminders. And I just have a simple board view of each day of the week. And I can take the tasks, whether related or unrelated to a specific goal, and chuck them into the particular day of the week once I'm ready to plan for that week. So the page is very minimal, just how I like it. And then the last little template is my ideal week builder. It's actually included in my weekly planning page. I also went through this in a very specific video about how I use Notion and Google Calendar to build my ideal week. Essentially, last year, I just had a schedule that I didn't really like too much. I think it was really impacting my sleep, my ability to do other things that I knew that was good for myself. I made it a mission to build something that would essentially help me start thinking about how I'd want to build my days, build my week in a way that still allows me to get work done, right? Because life is work. We all gotta work in some way, shape, or form. But because I have a flexible schedule currently, it allows me to really figure out when I'd like to work, when I feel the most creative, when I feel the most energized, and then where to put specific types of work, what my non-negotiables are, what times of the day do I really want to protect. And then I also have a space to actually visualize that ideal week. So I have a little board, again, Sunday through Saturday. That's similar actually to the board in the weekly planner. But I can just see basically how I want to lay out my week. After that, I made a little ideal week calendar in Google Calendar. And then slowly and surely, I started to make moves in my real life that allowed me to match my real week with my ideal week. If you're just getting started with Notion, I know it can be a little bit intimidating. So if you don't want to start from scratch and you want a comprehensive system that will allow you to think about your higher level vision and then provide you with a layout for specific ways on how you can achieve that vision for your year, then you can click the link in the description below. The next system I want to talk about is my system for cultivating helpful habits and routines while also prioritizing self-care. So when I wanted to prioritize getting my habits together, I really sought to understand the basis of habit formation for myself. If you didn't know, I studied neuroscience in undergrad, so I've always been fascinated by the biological basis of behavior. And from my studies, I've learned that cultivating habits and routines has everything to do with the brain and how she operates. So first thing I wanted to do was clarify for myself, what is a habit and how does my brain form them? In learning and memory formation, there's this theory called the stimulus response theory, where essentially you have a stimulus, a person is presented with said stimulus and responds to that stimulus by producing a behavior. And then a habit is essentially a stimulus response association that's made by the brain where the acquired behavior becomes automatic. So we don't even think about it, it's subconscious. Habits then are strengthened through repetition by associating with cues that you're getting from your environment. So when you see a stimulus, you get a cue from your environment, you respond automatically by producing a specific behavior. So essentially, the expression of your habit is triggered by cues without any conscious thought. The basis of habit formation is the habit loop. We probably know all about the habit loop from books like Atomic Habits, but it consists of cue, behavior, and reward. The habit loop basically describes how a cue, the stimulus, is the initiator of a habit, the behavior, to achieve a reward, usually positive, that reinforces the behavior. So understanding this, we know that there are some solutions solutions for changing our habits, which are very hard to do, again, because it's ingrained in our brain. And it's so difficult because this mechanism of habit formation is evolutionary, right? It kept our ancestors from becoming lion dinner. So when we strive to change our habits, we're really fighting deep evolutionary programming, years and years and years of programming. So a quick general summary of what behavioral scientists have found. The main solution is to replace your current habit with a new habit that is directly competing with the older, less desirable habit. You can also use things like positive reinforcement, identity-based framing, and the power of systems to help change our habits over time. I won't go into all the specifics here, honestly, because there are people a lot more qualified than me to explain, but this is how I basically think about it. I essentially took all that information and compiled the basics into a little habit formation worksheet that I made for myself to help me evaluate if my current habits and routines are working for me. And what's nice is that the habit formation worksheet is a digital template, so I can easily use it and reuse it whenever I want to reassess a certain habit or routine. And then another crucial part of my habits and routine system is my routine and habit tracker that I essentially access really on a daily basis. It essentially just helps me keep track of those minute details and helps me get clear on the habits and routines that I want to adopt. The main question I always ask myself is, what does my higher self prioritize? After some deep reflection, I now know that my higher self prioritizes calm, ease, and working in full alignment with what makes her feel authentic and filled with purpose. She prioritizes her health and well-being above all else. For her, that's the foundation upon which everything in her life has built. So like I said, this wake-up call really came about when I was diagnosed with this autoimmune disorder. And after, physicians have explained the outcome of what the disease process is, I was like, let me do my best to mitigate that process as much as I can, follow the instructions, go to my appointments, check in with myself, and also make those lifestyle choices to decrease that stress load, promote healthier living. And by keeping that a priority, I really feel the positive benefits of that. I'm able to feel energized, really feel happy, and I can easily build upon that foundation to achieve the things that I want to achieve in my life. So in my routine and habit tracker page, I have some thought starters about what I want my morning and evening routines to look like. I split these up into weekdays and weekends just because I have slightly different routines depending on whether it's a weekday or a weekend. So what's nice about Notion is the ability to make the templates within the specific database. So when I click in to create a new page, for each day of the week, I have a separate template that I can pre-fill with the types of morning and evening routines I'm cultivating. If I'm reevaluating a routine, it's super easy to just go in and edit the template. They're pretty much the same throughout the entire week for me, and I may implement some small changes depending whether it's a weekday or a weekend. But again, if I'm realizing that a specific routine or maybe specific steps that I'm habit stacking in that routine, then I can easily just go in and edit that template, and there we go. So if I click on a day, say Monday, my morning and evening routines are pre-populated here. Then I can easily just check them off and write in how many I've completed. So when you check off your routines and write in how many you've completed, a little progress bar will show up. So it's a nice visual, and I actually find that the visual of the progress bar is a nice tiny positive reinforcer. It really makes me feel like I've made progress as a type A overachiever, right? I like seeing the black dots filled for most of the month. So I have 3 different views. I have a daily view, a weekly view, and then a monthly view. And the monthly view is just a nice little calendar that just shows the progress bars itself. In the system, I have a couple other templates. I have a wellness corner that allows me to get clear on my self-care rituals, so I don't have to think about it when I want to do some self-care things. I already have ideas of things that I can draw from. I have talked about this extensively, but I have my gratitude journal and my evening reflections databases in there also. Again, if you don't want to start from scratch like me, I feel like these are pretty intuitive. If your brain works how my brain works, then you might find these templates useful. But for me, I access these pages multiple times a day. Since learning how to use Notion and getting better at using Notion, I have moved from physical planners into literally everything in my life, from my budding business to everything in my personal life. Notion as a digital system has really just helped me prioritize what makes me feel good and what helps me show up every day as my best self. These are the main ways that I go about systematizing my life, allowing me to make large strides without feeling the need to throw my whole personality away and adopt a new one. I can build on what's already there. I'm all about embracing our truest, most authentic selves here on this channel and just making little tweaks after reflecting on what we already know is intuitively good for us. If you resonate and if you like this video, then maybe you'd want to check out how I use some of these systems to build a self-care routine that I love. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I'll be seeing you very soon, and don't forget to stay mindful. Bye.